I regret how it's ended up. It was not my intention. I wanted all to ensure they could express their views and all sides of the House could vote. As it was, in particular, the SNP were ultimately unable to vote on their proposition. I am, and I regret, with my sadness, that it's ended up unlike that, in this position. That was never my intention for it to end up like this. I was absolutely convinced that the decision was done with the right intentions.
After a pretty chaotic night in the Commons, Lindsay Hoyle is facing a fight for his job. As I speak to you now, about 57 MPs from the Tory party and the Scottish National Party have signed a motion saying they've got no confidence in the Speaker. This comes after he was accused of bending the rules to spare Keir Starmer's blushes over potential rebellion on a Gaza ceasefire. The SNP had tabled their motion on a ceasefire, and by convention, there should have been the only one alongside the government's, which is voted on. However, Keir Starmer then faced the prospect of dozens of his own backbenchers voting with the Scottish National Party, which is completely intolerable for an opposition party to be able to do. And so instead, Labour tabled their own amendment to try and cajole those MPs to back the party leader Keir Starmer. And so Lindsay Hoyle actually agreed to let this happen. So a lot of people are incredibly annoyed about this because the end result was that the Scottish National Party didn't actually get to vote on their own motion by some parliamentary chicanery and some pretty arcane rules. It meant that last night you saw the Scottish National leader Stephen Flynn absolutely incensed, demanding the House be suspended and that Sir Lindsay Hoyle be dragged to the chamber to explain himself, which he eventually did issue a grovelling apology. And now the question is really, I think, about MP security in all of this, because the point that Lindsay Hoyle was trying to make was that he didn't want MPs having to make a sort of a catch-22 choice between whether or not they vote for a ceasefire, which lots of their constituents want, or whether they follow their party whip.
Leader of the House.
It also appears from the advice of his clerk that the decision is taken against the long-standing and established processes and procedures of this House, and that the consequences may be that government is not able to respond to opposition day motions, and as such, the government does not have confidence that it will be able to vote on its own motion. For that reason, the government will play no further part in the decision this House takes on today's proceedings. I would like to stress that the government's position on...
I am bound to take the Labour Party amendment first and then move on to the SNP. That is all the advice I have received, and I'm sure that when she... Point of order.
Just don't take it. Don't take it.
I'm not taking that. I will. No.
Just don't take it.
She's thrown out.
No.
The question is that the House do sit in private. As many as are of that opinion say aye. No. We'll have a division.
On those seeking to justify their lack of leadership for refusing to recognise the ICJ interim ruling. For decades, successive Israeli governments have broken international law with impunity, and for decades the UK has enabled them. The UK has a legal responsibility to act to prevent genocide, and yet this government continues to allow the armed...
Point of order, Stephen Flynn.
Madam Deputy Speaker, can you please advise me where the Speaker of the House of Commons is What mechanisms are available to bring him to this House? And as we wait for a deliberation to be made in that regard, I move that this House, you use the powers that I trust you have to suspend this House until the Speaker is brought here.
I will not be suspending the House. We need to put these questions. We need to put these questions. Mr. Speaker will be in his place tomorrow.
That some of the members who are shouting the loudest
I mean, some of the scenes last night were absolutely shocking, and I think for some of the public watching on, and it's essentially, although it's quite a weird one last night, because you had obviously this massive issue right at the heart of it about the entire war in the Middle East and the conflict in between Israel and Hamas and a potential ceasefire in Gaza. But what this essentially boiled down to was very arcane rules and parliamentary technicalities, and that sparks complete pandemonium in the House of Commons. You had MPs shouting at each other, you had MPs shouting at the Speaker, calls for the House to sit in private, turn off the cameras, boot out the journalists, dragging the Speaker back to his chair after he sent out his deputy. It was a complete mess last night. And I think for lots of the public watching on, I've been in Westminster for a few years, I understand the sort of the cut and thrust of it and all these technicalities. People watching on, I think a lot of them will have absolutely no idea what's going on. And quite frankly, probably be quite appalled. You have such a massive a political international issue like the Israel-Hamas war, and it's reduced to shouting in the Commons because of these technicalities. On the flip side of that, of course, is that obviously tempers do flare when you discuss such hot-button issues. But I think at the moment, most of this is being channeled towards the Speaker for his conduct and all of this. He maintains that he did the right thing in the interests of MP security. 57 MPs so far and counting don't agree with him, and they think that he has essentially showed pretty brazen bias in sparing Keir Starmer's blushes and all of this. And number 10 sources are actually also pointing to Keir Starmer's actions in all of this and are suggesting the possibility of a sort of a grubby backroom deal stitched up with the Speaker. We know that the Labour leader had meetings with the Speaker shortly before he made that decision to select that Labour amendment. And so now there's lots of calls for both of them, the Speaker and Keir Starmer, to come clean about exactly what was said during those meetings, whether any undue pressure was applied to get Lindsay Hoyle to greenlight Keir Starmer's motion. Because any sort of undue influence in the Speaker, who, let's not forget, does still have to be elected in himself, would be quite a serious matter here. So I think there's questions to come out. Answers need to come out today, and I think that the Speaker should do his best to answer them, because at the moment he's facing a pretty big backbench mutiny now.